Hey, Lindsay, how are you?
Excellent, Michelle. I'm doing great. I'm back from traveling all over the US, from the West Coast, California, over to Boston, and now back to Denver. So I'm finally home. I'm feeling good.
I cannot keep track of you.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's good to be home for a
That's
week or
good.
so.
That's good. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Settle in a little bit.
Yeah.
Lindsay, do you think all ears English was meant to be?
Believe it or not, I actually do.
Okay,
I had
tell me
this
more.
feeling. Well, just when we first launched, the way that it just took off from the beginning, I just had this feeling like there was something very special about All Ears English, right? And I'm trying to separate my own bias from what I think, like, it just has a different vibe, right? We're trying to talk about connection. We're trying to make sure the world can connect. And I think there's been so much history in English language learning around getting stuck in perfectionism. And so we take this different angle. And I think the world needs something like that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was meant to be. It was meant to
Good.
be.
I love it. I love it. So that's what we're talking about today because we have a listener question. But speaking of meant to be, I mean, our listeners, like I guess we were meant to be with you guys. Oh no, we're so thankful.
Yeah.
And All Ears English obviously would not be what it is today without you guys. And we want to thank
Yes.
our reviewers
Yes.
for their reviews. So Lindsay, you want to read the names for us?
Yeah, so thank you to Saeed Ghassempour from Iran, Alex Thwan02 from Japan, and Mostafa Zarapur from the UK. Those are just a few of the listeners who reviewed us recently. Guys, it is right now we're in the week between Christmas and New Year's. We would love a little gift, a little Christmas gift to see your review, right? So go
Yes.
ahead and leave us a review. Michelle, I always send you the reviews, or I
Yes.
try to when I see one, and
Mhm.
we read them, don't we? We read them every time.
For
Yeah.
sure. I know I really do always read them, and I'm so thankful, and it's just another way to connect with you guys. So, thank you so
Yeah.
much, and if you haven't done it, please
Yep.
do. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, to get your name read aloud on the show, go ahead and leave us a review. You can even ask your question right inside your review because that will get looked at. So good stuff. All
Yes.
right, Michelle, do we have a listener question today?
We do. Since you read the reviews, you want me to read the question?
Yeah, why not? Why
I'll
not?
do it. All right. So
Okay.
it says, "Hi there. My name is Mao, and I'm a high school student in Japan. Hi, Mao. I've been a listener of your podcast and enjoy listening to it every morning. I was an
Oh, that's
intern.
amazing.
Yes, every morning. Wow.
Wow.
Coffee and all ears English, right?
Yeah.
So I was an international student in Canada last year, and I sometimes heard people using the phrase meant to be. Despite hearing it frequently, I didn't really ask about its meaning. Now, back in Japan, I'm curious to understand its significance. I'm just wondering if you guys can explain the meaning of meant to be, also, and when to use it. Thank you so much, and keep up the fantastic work with the podcast. Have a good rest of your day. Smiley face, Mouth. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mal. Thank you for making All Ears English a big part of your life. We love it. And we love these very specific and detailed questions, don't we,
Yeah.
Michelle? We love them.
This is
Yes.
great. This is great. So,
Yeah.
guys, if you haven't listened, a recent episode could be great is 2108 How to Add Nuance to Your Opinions in English. Because maybe
Ooh.
you're talking about an opinion of something that's meant to be or not meant to be. So, a good one to listen to as well.
I love that idea. We're all about nuance, guys. We're trying to bring you up to that 99% fluency level for connection. So that episode in particular is really good to just add a little detail, be a little bit more interesting when you talk about your opinions beyond what you would learn in the textbook, right, Michelle?
That's right. Yep. Yep. Exactly. So, let's
Yes.
get into it. So, Lindsay, when you hear something was meant to be, what do you think of that expression?
Um, well, on the very, very surface level, you could think of rom-coms for
Yeah.
sure, right?
Mhm.
A lot of rom-coms, romantic comedy movies will play up this scene. Like I think of the movie, was it Sliding
Yeah,
Doors?
yes, yep.
Right. Where like they just happened to meet only because something else happened.
Yep.
Right. That concept. But we'll get into it. What do you think of, Michelle? What comes
Yeah,
to
I mean,
mind?
yeah, the first thing that I think of, like, when I hear "meant to be," I do think of
Yeah.
romantic comedies.
Yeah. And
But
romance too,
yeah,
right?
and
Yeah.
romance, like, "Oh, were you meant to be? It was meant to be."
Yeah.
But it's not just about romance, this expression, right, Lindsay?
Yeah, it's not just about romance, right? So we bring it into our conversation in American English when we talk about something being fated for something or someone. Like it was always supposed to happen. I have kind of like mixed feelings about this phrase a little bit, and I can talk about it in a second
About
here.
meant to be?
Yeah, kind of, because I sort of feel like it can take agency away from us if we say it too much, right? Like,
Ah.
"Oh, I didn't get the job. Oh, it just wasn't meant to
Was
be." Well,
ah.
what could I have done better to get the job? What could I do in the future to get the,
Mm.
or could I call them again and ask for a coffee with the boss? Like, it's sometimes we have to know the line between being at peace with something, that the way things went the way they did, versus is there something else I can do? So, I think
That's
it
a
can be a little
wow.
dangerous.
You brought
Yeah.
it there. Yeah, I think, I agree with you. You have to know, like, when do you sit back and let the world happen to you? Sometimes people
Yes.
say, "Oh, oh, I like, this hasn't happened, like, it wasn't, like, meant for my life. It wasn't my
Right,
fate.
right.
It wasn't my story." But you can
Or
say that too much and just make excuses.
yeah, or did you just not set up the conditions that were likely to have it happen? Like, did you not do the right things, right? So it's a little complicated. I
Mm.
also think in the end, like on a very deep level, life is just happening to us, right? We don't have as much control as maybe we think we do. Like on a very deep level, life is just going to happen. So
Yeah.
just to go deep here, Michelle.
Y
But yeah, it's an interesting phrase, and I think it's good for our listeners to know it because we use it all the time. We use it a lot. We use it
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So, yeah, like, talking about all ears English being meant to be. I mean, that was something that,
Mhm.
it would maybe it was meant to be, but also it wouldn't have been had it
Yeah.
not been for the hard work, right?
Oh my gosh, that's a good point. Like I talked about at the top of the episode, there was a gut feeling I
Mhm.
had that we should continue all ears English. So we should keep it going. There is something important that we have to give to the world here. And I didn't have that gut feeling with the other company that I was running at the time, right? So it was a
Mhm.
tutoring company. That one didn't matter as much. For some
Mm.
reason, there was something special about all ears English. So that's
Mhm.
what I mean when I say, yeah, I think it was meant to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just that something was intended to happen. I mean, we use this in a couple different ways, and we can follow up on more another time, but yeah. I mean, like, for example, I could say, "I feel like I was meant to be on All Ears English." No,
Yeah.
but I do
Yeah.
I feel because I had graduated from school, I
Yeah.
had a background in radio. I was
Yes.
thinking, what's going to be my place in
Right.
this sphere and this new, it's like a totally new thing. And there was a piece of me that felt, well, I would hate to totally just throw away my past experience in radio. And then it just so
Totally.
happened that I got a job announcement for
You saw it somewhere on the interwebs, as they
yes,
say.
yes. And I just felt like it was meant to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, yeah, based on your background, your work history, your education, it made total sense. It felt like a fit, right?
Yes.
And that was when podcasting was just emerging. It really
Yeah.
was. Like, it was not many people were listening to podcasts in 2014. It was a brand new medium in some ways.
Hmm.
I see this used a lot when people talk about, let's say, for example, you're looking for a house and it's been a tough housing
Mm.
market and people
Oh,
were
yeah.
getting outbid left and right. That's a good
Yeah.
episode topic, by the way, left and right. Someday
Yes.
we can do that one. And then, many people might say, "Oh, we tried our best. It just wasn't meant to be with this house. Maybe the next one." That would be a good example of how I might use this,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. So
yeah.
we are gonna go through more in just a second.
All right, good. Where do we go from here, Michelle?
So, yeah, I mean, it can be used to talk about your path, personally or professional. So, like, oh, I was always meant to be a New Yorker. I wanted to live here since I was a little girl. And so, like, it just your path, like, it was my fate. I was meant to
Yeah,
be a New Yorker. But it can also be used about people, like, oh, do you think you and your partner were meant to
meant to
be,
be.
right? That kind
Yeah.
of a thing, right?
Interesting. Yeah, I use it a lot. As we said at the top, romantic connections, rom-coms, things like that. That's a really common way to use it, Michelle, for
Mhm,
sure.
mhm.
Yeah.
It's sometimes like, in about, like, when there's a story to something,
Yeah.
that there's a background, right? Like I talked about getting on All Ears English. There's a
Mhm.
background to it. There's a story to it. And here's another one. I mean, I'm one of probably my best friend in where, in the area in New York, is someone who I had met her at a baby class, like, once, and so we saw each other, but I just happened to be with my parents at this bakery
Uh-huh.
nearby, and I was standing outside, and this woman walked by, and we were like, "Oh, don't we know each other from the class?"
That's cool.
And then we exchanged information. I mean, and this is now our babies were maybe 6 months, and now they're both just about
Oh, that's
5, and
amazing.
so we're still friends. So I feel like it was meant to be, like, it would, had I not been there, I wouldn't
Yeah.
have who knows what would have happened.
Oh, I love that. And we've talked about this before on the show,
Yes,
Michelle, like moments in life that were
I
so
know.
key for more for the people that ended up in your life. And you're thinking, what if you hadn't been there or hadn't done that thing and seen that person? It's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. But we can also say, Lindsay, like you've brought all already, saying it in the negative way. Something
Yeah.
wasn't meant to be or isn't meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, for example, talking about a relationship, they broke up. I guess they weren't meant to be.
Mhm.
And we can get some level of solace here too, especially if that's a relationship. Oh, he ghosted me. I guess it just wasn't meant to be,
Yeah.
right? And that can be good. That can be healthy to say, you know what? Like fate is like the world maybe there's a plan going on or just it's just not supposed to happen is what we're saying here, right?
Right. So I think that's okay in that
Yeah.
world. But yeah, the next
Yeah.
example is about the job, right? Like so professionally, oh, I didn't get the job. I guess it just wasn't meant to be. And that's where
Yeah.
we have to think about
I think
is,
so.
we have to think
Yeah.
about it a little bit more.
Right. Well, I think it's just you say it once, but if you see yourself saying it over and over and over and you're just not getting these jobs, is there something you could be doing
Right.
on your own time to increase your prospects? So, yeah, there's a difference between a romantic connection, if it's not there, it's not there, versus getting a job, maybe there are things you could do. Right?
Right. Exactly. So, but it can also be used really just to comfort someone. Oh, it just
Yeah.
wasn't meant to be. So you could always, although I mean, sometimes people might not like that kind of comfort, but that's really everybody's personal feeling.
Yeah, people have different opinions about this for sure. So what would that look like? What else, Michelle? How else
Uh,
would we use it?
okay. Well,
Mhm.
now we're gonna go through a couple of other things you could say.
Okay.
So one thing you could say is, "I was born for this." To be born for something.
Mm, and what a good feeling when you're doing something you feel like you were born to do, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh my gosh, yes. And this kind of goes back to Strengths Finder. We've taken the Strengths Finder assessment to figure out what we do well. Example, guys, she was born to be a star,
Yeah, you hear that
right?
a lot, right?
Yes. Yes, I love that. What else?
And the other one is, it was destiny. So it was her destiny to be a doctor.
So good. So good. Why is this a connection skill? To be able to say this and more importantly, to know I think this is about knowing who you're saying it to. Is it the right person to say that to?
Hmm.
Do you know what
Hmm.
I mean?
Yeah.
Some
Well, tell me more.
yeah. Like I think some people, let's say for a job, you didn't get the job, your friend didn't get the job, or even a relationship. Some people would respond positively to, "Oh, I guess it wasn't meant to
Hmm.
be."
Hmm.
Other people might get a little
Yeah, right.
frustrated, don't you think, or annoyed? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too, because I mean, sometimes you want that comfort. Oh, it wasn't meant to be. Yeah, yeah. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's like, well, but I worked really hard on this, and let's not
Yeah.
minimize that, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's a fine line. We have to walk that line here, Michelle.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So, but I think this is good for connection. You have to really think about it carefully when you use this. It can
Yes.
open conversations. It can comment on a situation. Lindsay, anything else that you feel was meant to be in your life?
Yeah, I kind of always felt like I was meant to live in Colorado, actually, believe
Oh
it or
yeah.
not. When I did my first road trip, I've done 4 or 5 of them now around the US.
Mhm.
But when I did my first one, I intentionally skipped Colorado because I had this feeling at some point I would be living here.
Oh,
And then I met my partner and we ended up out here. Right.
so
So
had you ever been before?
I
Oh
had come
wow.
out to visit, with my partner, but I had never lived here or really spent any time on my own out here. And so I had this feeling it was somewhere in my future. So yeah, there
So
was a
after
little
you had been there,
well, I hadn't
so
when
when
I
you had
came
the
to
feeling, sorry.
it was way before. It was like when I was
Ah,
20.
so then you hadn't
Before
been there.
no, I hadn't been
But you
there.
had
I just
that's what I wanted to know.
yeah.
So, like, oh, so you
Yes.
just Wow, that's kind of
I don't know. Maybe it's because it's a state where I always knew I would connect, right? So the sunshine, outdoor lifestyle, that kind of thing. But I think sometimes we have an intuition about our lives a little bit. I
mm,
wonder how our listeners would feel about that. Do you feel that way? There's a little bit of an intuition about what's ahead sometimes.
yeah. Yeah, I think in some ways, but I think there's that expression, "Man plans and God laughs."
I love
Uh,
that
I
expression.
love
That's a
that
great
too.
expression.
Man plans and God laughs. My
God
mom says
laughs.
that a lot. Yeah, it's just like,
A great one.
you
Yeah.
can line everything up and you can do everything and it's
Can get
just
all your ducks in a row, as they say,
yep,
right?
yep. But,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen, and, it's funny though to, like, think about your life and think about, "Oh, things coulda gone this way," or "Oh, I wish things had been in a
Yeah.
certain way," or "Something had happened like this or that," or
Mhm.
whatever. But then when you think about where you are now, it's like if anything had been different, that's everything, your life would be different now.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. It's complicated. It's
It
complicated.
is
So again, I
complicated.
think yeah, with this phrase, it's just about knowing your audience for this phrase. Will they respond to this in a way that they resonate and they say, "Thank you for saying that. You're right. It wasn't meant to be, or it was meant to be," or will they push back and say, "What do you mean? This is
Mhm.
not what I wanted." That kind of thing. Yeah?
That's right. So, should we do
Yeah.
a role play?
Yes. Yeah. So
Let's
here
do
we are
it.
friends and we are guests at a wedding.
Okay,
Nice.
here we
Love
go.
weddings. Okay. Oh man, I always cry at weddings.
Oh, me too, especially when the couple is so clearly meant to be, like Maria and Charlie are.
Oh, yes, definitely. I love weddings. I think I was born to be a wedding guest.
Oh my gosh, I do too, but sometimes there are too many all at once. Wedding season is busy. I wasn't meant to be a wedding guest every weekend. I get tired of it.
Oh, not me. It's my destiny to go to weddings. Weddings are really fun. Are you pro wedding? Do you like to go to weddings?
I do like
Most
to go,
people
but
do.
it is like when you are at the time in your life where there is just a wedding every weekend, it can get exhausting.
That's
Um,
exhausting.
but I
Yeah, for
do but I
sure.
do like weddings, of course.
No, it's fun. I'd say like 1 or 2 a summer, great. Anything
Yes.
more than that is intense because it's
Yes, yes.
expensive, right? Yeah.
It is expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what did we say here, Michelle? Let's break this down and then we gotta get off the mic.
Let's do it.
Yeah?
All right. I said I cry at weddings, especially when the couple is so clearly meant to be.
Oh my gosh, yes, I love that, especially when it's like that. And then I said, I think I was born to be a wedding guest. And we're kind of having fun with this, right?
Yeah.
This is not something you would typically
No.
say, born to be a wedding guest, but we're having fun here, playing
Yes.
around.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's in a
Yeah.
funny way. And then I
Yeah.
said I wasn't meant to be a wedding guest every weekend. I get tired of it.
Yeah, and then I say, "It's my destiny to go to weddings."
Yes.
Right, so
So you're making a
normally
joke.
we're making a joke. We're keeping it light here, guys. Obviously, with our examples earlier, normally these phrases are like, it was my destiny to play for the NFL,"
Yeah,
but,
right.
we're taking it the lighter route here. Good
Yes.
stuff. What's the takeaway, Michelle?
Oh man. Well, I this is a really important connection skill. You have to think about it though. Does the person you're speaking to want to be comfort in this way or be
Yeah.
spoken to about this? And also think about your worldview. Are you using this as an excuse?
Yeah.
Ever something wasn't meant to be, oh, it just wasn't meant to be. Is there something that you could change with that? So, but
Yeah.
I'm just curious, guys, let us know what was meant to be in your life. Write some examples down, and then
Mhm.
in your next English conversation, you can use this expression.
Yeah, I think we all have an intuition of what was meant to be, what wasn't meant to be. So let us know, good
Yes.
stuff. And, prepare for your connection conversation using these phrases. Guys, hit that follow button so you don't miss a single episode of All Ears English. Good stuff.
Okay. All right. Well,
All
this is
right.
fun, and I will talk to you in the next one, Lindsay.
Have a good one, Michelle. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.